Hello. Today's article is about time management, and I'm going to break this out over a period of time. So today, we're just going to worry about getting a tool started so you can begin to document your time. You need a good dashboard to see your progress. And my guess is if you're watching this today, you are overwhelmed with things to do and you have a decreasing amount of time to get things done, especially if you're growing in responsibilities. The more you take on, the less time you have to get those things done. So we're going to create a dashboard here that's going to give you a visual representation of how you're doing to help you maybe lower the stress level just a little bit and help you manage the things that you need to get done with a little bit more control. So let's get into this. First thing you need to do is get a good planner, and I mean a really good planner. I suggest a large one, something that's easy to write in. Get pencil. Later on I'll be promoting 4 colors of ink, and that's in the article. But in the beginning, first couple weeks, get a pencil, start with that. And make the planner a large one, like a desk planner, so that you have adequate space for easy writing, easy reading. And then referring to the article, there's 3 basic components or columns in the planner that you need to have as a bare minimum. The first is a day column, today's column, where you have everything broken down in half-hour increments in time. So that's very good. From the beginning of the day to the end of the day, you can traverse that and see how you're going to budget your time, and once you've done that, you can now use that as your agenda for the day and see where you're going from place to place, what you're going to be doing. You can stay organized. The second column is a week at a glance, just worrying about the business days. Listed here are not the tiny details of every hour of every day, but only the big hitting stuff, the really important stuff. And then finally, the notes column. This is going to be not the place for your bread and eggs pick up after work. This is the place where you put down the big projects that need to get done during the week. And this should be a minimum amount of information here. And so we're going to start filling this in, and we're going to go from the chart I gave you on the article, we're going to go from right to left to fill this out. And I think you'll see the reasoning for that here as we get into it. So starting with the notes column, the to-do list, we're going to put in there the big hitting item for this week, which, as I have listed, is a Widget Maker number 2 installation. So here's a big machine your company spent a gazillion dollars to get. There's a lot of time and effort it takes to put this thing into place and into operation. So for you, this is a big project. So we put that on the notes and to-do list column as something you need to get done this week. That's your goal. Now, what we do with that in the weekly column is we pick the day that we're going to tackle this. Now remember, you're in management. It's not your job to get everything done. It's your job to make sure things get done. So we're selecting Tuesday as the target day that we're going to check into this project and see how it's doing. In our little fictitious story here, if you recall, last week your team told you that Widget Maker number 2 is going to be running here at the end of the week, so you need to make sure that that's going to happen. We're picking Tuesday as a time ahead of the due date to make sure that everything is going right. So that's what we're going to do on that column. We simply just lay it in there, Widget Maker number 2, meeting. And then we move over to the day column. We're choosing August the 9th, so we're now going to pick the hour that we're going to get this task done. And we have selected 9 a.m. for Widget Maker number 2 installation meeting. So now we know by going to our calendar, we've written down 9 a.m. for this day. We're going to have a Widget Maker number 2 installation meeting. And as you go through your day, when that 9 o'clock comes, you go in that meeting, you deal with the details of that meeting hands-on. You line out this item when you're done. And because it is a big project for that day, you go to the daily column, or rather the week at a glance column, go to that day and you line it out as done. And because, again, it was a large project for the week, you go into your notes and to-do list and you line it out there. Now, the reason why we have these multiple entries is because not every day you're going to have big ticket items running. Your day, hour to hour, half hour to half hour, is going to have a lot of little stuff in there. So it's the purpose of the week at a glance column is just to identify the big things for each one of those days. The purpose of the notes column is to identify the even bigger items that need to get done that week. The details of the day are only written down in the daily column. Those are the small things. Maybe you've got smaller meetings, lesser priorities, phone calls to make, people to get together, reports to write, and that kind of thing. You put those into your hour-to-hour format. They don't need to go into the week at a glance, and they certainly don't need to go into the to-do list. So it's a matter of priority. Small day-to-day stuff and all things go into the daily column. The more important things, not the small stuff, goes into the weekly column, and only the really big things go into the to-do list. Now, say you finish the end of the week and you don't have some things done. You need to roll those over. Every day that you don't get something done, you need to roll that item over instead of lining it out. Roll it over to the next week, the next day of this week, whatever is most appropriate. When you look at your week at a glance column and you finish your week, you get things not done, again, you roll those over. And the big projects on your to-do list, if you didn't get to them, you roll those over. But each time you do roll over an item to the following day or the following week, be sure to identify those items with something special. Asterisks, red ink, highlighter, something. Right next to it, label, this is a rolled over item from last week. Do something that indicates to you that this has been going on, you didn't have enough time last week to get it done, or yesterday to get it done. So your rollover day or rollover week needs to know that, so that when you come to that point, the priority for you is raised to get that done. So that's the mechanism itself, the tool, and how you get it to operate. We're going to be spending more time in other articles talking about some of the finer details. Once you get past the first couple weeks, I want you to invest in 4-color ink. Your black ink is later going to be used for routine entries. Your red is for really important. Your green are for things that you've gotten done. And I personally use the blue for communications. Things that I need to email, letters I need to write, not meetings, but written or verbal communications that I need to get done. Those are things I use the blue for. Helps those things pop out, make sure I got email time, make sure I have phone call time. And another thing is, between your hour-to-hour tasks, make sure you leave time for travel. Make sure you leave time for breaks, lunch, restroom breaks, any of those smaller intermittent stops that you have to make, or maybe traveling from one end of the company campus to the other. You're going to need some travel time in there, even though it's 10 minutes on foot, it's still time. So don't put things back to back. Leave space in there for those kinds of adjustments with things that are not productive, but they take time. Again, the travel of things or the breaks that you have to take between things. Very important to allocate space for that. Do not use your planner as a checklist and start thinking about it as a checklist. As a manager, supervisor, business leader, you are trying to get activities done, important activities. You don't need a checklist. If you needed a checklist, you would get a notepad and just start writing 10 things you got to get done today and go down the list. That's not the purpose of this. This purpose is to allocate your time, 15 minutes for this activity, half hour for that, 2 hours for the other, and budget your time, leaving appropriate time between things. And one of those things I should have mentioned earlier, besides breaks and travel, is notes. Sometimes after meetings, we got to consolidate our notes. We got to type them up, or we have to store them in our electronic files, make copies, whatever. Allocate those time frames to wrap up your notes. There's nothing worse than having a meeting done and not having your notes wrapped up and put away. So file that as part of your activity. put that in the space between meetings. It's a perfect time to get it done. This way, you spend a solid hour on your meeting perhaps, and you've got time in between for your next task to get those notes wrapped up, put away, organized, emailed, whatever it is that you need to get done as a result of that meeting, any of those post-meeting activities. Make sure you get time to get that done. You can't have that stuff piling up because that's going to defeat the purpose of being efficient in your activities. Hope this has been a useful article. We're going to get into more detail later, so I appreciate your taking a look at this, and feel free to send me your comments and questions. And I look forward to reading those, and have a great day.